Good morning to friends and associates for this latest episode of Intuitive Reactions on the MENA and Gulf regions. Today, I shall use my few precious moments to speak about the 20th anniversary of the invasion on 20 March 2003 of Saddam Hussein's Iraq by the USA, the UK, and a few other allies. But let me start off by reading first a paragraph from an article I spotted in a French newspaper that I'm translating into English about this invasion, and then carry on with my own thoughts. The paragraph said, exactly 20 years ago, on March 20, 2003, a US-led coalition invaded Iraq. It was to be the mother of all battles Iraqi President Saddam Hussein promised on January 16, 2003, just as the United States, United Kingdom, and their allies, what was called the New Europe, invaded his country. A few weeks were enough to sweep away the rantings of the Rais, the president, but it was years before Washington found the way out. Thousands of deaths, of refugees, the destruction of infrastructure, the collapse of the education system, a country made ungovernable by political sectarianism. For all these crimes, no Western leader will have been judged yet, at a time when other leaders have and are being judged for their war crimes. Okay, so a few of my own reminders and conclusions now too. 1. The invasion of 2003 did not, in my opinion, start in an abstract vacuum. That is a misrepresentation. Rather, it started with the invasion by Iraq of neighboring Kuwait in August 1990. This was a strategic blunder by Saddam Hussein, no matter his justifications, and it unleashed the set of events and sanctions that ultimately led to 2003. President Bush Jr. wanted this war partly because of his psychology that egged him on to punish Iraq for the attack on the Twin Towers in September 2001. But the Rais was not responsible for that attack, nor, for that matter, did he have any weapons of mass destruction in his arsenal. We were sold a soap, and despite the massive global demonstrations and the opposition of the likes of France's President Jacques Chirac and Dominique de Villepin, the invasion took place. 2. Did we get a post-invasion democracy in Iraq? Bluntly speaking, no. Today, many Iraqis are still happy that Saddam Hussein was overthrown. But there is also some reborn Saddam nostalgia because of the security that he had brought to the country. We have witnessed massive corruption, incompetence, at times small thinking, and a system where ethnic and sectarian elites, some of them imported from the diaspora, enriched themselves massively at the expense of the ordinary people. And there still is no strong central government in Iraq to pull a splintered country together. 3. Iraq today probably has a system of elections, at least on paper, that is better than a dictatorship, and also better than that of many other countries in the region. But it is flawed, and it is being misapplied because of the variety of Russian-style matryoshkas, the militias, the proxies, the corruption over wealth and influence, the treachery, the lurking danger of ISIS, all together strangulating this country. Just imagine for 1 second. Iraq is the second largest crude oil producer in OPEC after Saudi Arabia. It holds the world's fifth largest proved crude oil reserves at 145 billion barrels, representing 17% of proved reserves in the Middle East and 8% of global reserves. Yet, it has a population that is in its majority living in misery. Truly unbelievable revenue potential that has been squandered with such criminality. 4. But what went wrong in 2003, you may well ask? I'd posit that the mission behind the invasion had a starkly wrong objective. The key Western allies, the USA and the UK, were obsessed with Saddam Hussein and hell-bent on removing him, whereas the vital question that was avoided should have been to focus on the post-invasion phase and to ensure the emergence of a stable Iraq without Saddam Hussein. That would have required a different planning, principally by the United States, but it was never really the case, and hence the loss of security control across the country, the distasteful stories we all heard about, including abuse of power, the splintering of the country largely between Shia, Sunni, and Kurdish competing principalities, and the catastrophic results for Iraq itself as a sovereign entity, let alone the catastrophe visited upon a whole region. 5. Finally, and as a former UK ambassador to Iraq also pointed out, there was a lack of political legitimacy in this invasion. I recall quite well all the conversations preceding the invasion of 2003. But the US president and the UK prime minister at the time thought that legitimacy lay in their own friendship-constructed viewpoints alone, buttressed, as it were, by those peoples or industries benefiting from wars. This meant that the invasion neither won the support of much of the world, nor did it guarantee the safety of Iraq. So what happens next? It depends on the ability of Prime Minister Soudani, the Iraqi Prime Minister, to bring the country together, which itself depends on regional politics and proxies, which in turn relies on global power competition and tugs of war. I know Iraq a bit, as I was involved in the humanitarian relief efforts post the first Gulf War in 1991. The Iraqi people, like most ordinary Arab peoples, are like you and me. They have good traits and they have bad traits. So I hope, I really do, that this oil-rich country will be allowed to learn how to be a successful reality and not a failed state. My thoughts today are akin to an indictment of so many parties for the failure to achieve a promising Iraq to date. But over and above my few minutes of reflection in this particular episode today, I'm also going to post in the description box one link alone by the BBC's Jeremy Bowen. Read it, because he, like John Simpson and a few others, understands far better than politicians what happened in Iraq, both before and after the invasion of 2003. Iraq is a cradle of civilizations. It is also a biblical site and the birthplace of our common forefather at Ur, Abraham. So, if you ask me now whether I think swords will turn into plowshares, I'll have to say, sadly, no, not soon, alas. And that in itself is a great indictment, is a painful indictment for a great country and a greater number of its ordinary men, women, and children.